The future of cloud data center in digital world. And for this, I would like to invite on stage Mr. Ajay Chawla, who is Head of IT and CISO at Sterlite Technologies. Giving a brief introduction, Ajay is a forward-thinking digital transformation leader with over 25 plus years of experience. He's passionate about leveraging technology to drive digital transformation to deliver innovative solutions that enable business success. He's known for enabling business KPIs through digital transformation and change management, and his expertise in IT strategy, enterprise architecture, cybersecurity, system design, and platform leverage has enabled him to lead complex technology initiatives from global organizations and deliver measurable results. With this, let's welcome Mr. Ajay with a big round of applause.
Thank you very much. When I was sitting there, I was thinking, which side of the stadium do I need to stand, because most of the crowd seems to be gathered around the nearest area to the exit. but nonetheless, with all due respect to everybody, thank you very much for being here to listen to me. I'll share a few perspectives. So I'm Ajay Chawla. I'm the head of IT and InfoSec for Sterlite Technologies. Sterlite Technologies make optical fiber and optical fiber cable. They are also into services for fiber deployment, as well as STL Digital, which is an ITES company. So I take care of the internal aspect of the company. When I'm giving the perspective and talking to you, the idea would be that I share a few perspectives, try to give some ideas as to what I've done from the experience of different companies, and possibly be able to relate to your needs, and obviously I'll maybe make some provocative statements, but the idea is to elicit a response, not to offend anybody or their opinions, because opinions are many. I can have also one of those guys who may have an opinion, but the idea is not to go by that, but to share just a perspective. So please take it from that angle. And I think most of my slides would be, I think many of you already know all the things which I'm going to talk about. That's where I'll bring in the experience, from the idea of where the cloud data center is in today's digital world, right? And I think it is really exploding from a digital world perspective. You would have recently seen about what Meta is doing, from the AR/VR to a new level altogether. All that, in some ways, even when we are B2B, there will be some relation to how do we manage, our strategy, our risks from a, cloud usage and cloud deployment perspective. So, a few aspects I will cover here. And I cover as basic slides, and then I'll also be talking about a few things. From anything which we do from a digital world to cloud data center, the focal point in my mind is business, right? And that is changing at almost a breakneck speed. When I say changing, it can be a uptick like a hockey stick, and it can be also how cycles play in today's world. Please keep in mind when I talk about cycles, right? Cycles, for example, fiber optics, because it is being, with all this happening, the data being flushed to different clouds, public clouds, or your own cloud, or your colo data center, and the people consuming it at a high speed. There is a high fiber deployment which is happening, but these are also cyclical, right? So how do you manage business environment? How do you leverage cloud from that perspective? And also, the functions within it. So I'll just touch upon a few functions. And I think the panel member before me also talked about different aspects of the cloud. So I'll not go inside, but more in terms of business. See, I think business, let's take a few examples of it where the transformation may involve, right? One would be just a business need. So that's where the IT comes in to meet those needs with the best possible solution. One aspect is that, so it triggered from business. Another could be IT itself doing a technical transformation. Second and third would be in terms of, one of the functions which I've seen being very adaptive to new things is R&D in your teams, in your business. And the fourth one could be the engineering team, right? Where also they would have their own perspective, and how do you marry it with your roadmap and align to their needs, because they are servicing what the business, they are seeing the business to be going towards, or the meeting the future demand. So I think that is those four functions I'll try to calibrate as I go along in this discussion. And the idea being, take few examples as I go along. Okay. I think we have talked about cloud. Everybody knows about from a cloud perspective. It is all about flexibility in cost. At the same time, a gentleman said the cost goes up. So I think one cost keeps coming up, both from a positive angle as well as from a sustainability angle. Obviously increased agility, security. Now I am putting that's where I said I would be doing a little provocative thing. I'm saying that improved security on cloud rather than, your own boxes or in colo in certain cases. And obviously you are piggybacking on the cloud data centers innovations which are happening, right? People before me, you have seen how they are talking about energy, they are talking about equipment, they are talking about interconnectivity, they are talking about sustainability, talking about reliability. My view is that ride along with that innovation train and use it to your advantage to meet the business needs. Again, it is all driven, IT from my perspective, it's all driven how quickly we align to the business needs and give them a solution at almost like a now basis. I think that is the crux, and that's where the cloud with all these four aspects can play a role. Again, coming back to the business outcomes from obviously you need to meet the business goals and objectives, but you have to keep in mind your current IT landscape. What do I mean by that? It could be a journey of a distributed IT. It could be a journey of multi-colo data centers. It could be a need of all interconnected offices and plants globally. It could be also a need of how your IT application landscape is. Is it more bespoke? Is it more monolithic? Is it microservices related? Is it more buy of applications, or it is more SaaS? Knowing all those aspects, you need to be, I think, very, very clear as to what your future state would be based on where you are. There is no, in my mind, there are basic frameworks which are available, but there is no cookie cutter solution for it. Play with your ears, knowing things on your ground. I think that is the key thing. And then play to your advantage of, again, bringing in cloud data centers if that meets the need from business and your landscape perspective. Obviously, with the idea of the innovation happening on the cloud, and you wanting to be part of that gravy train. Obviously, budget plays a big role, and cloud engineers, whether in-house or through managed services or through the cloud partners, you have to figure out what best meets your need. But that's an important consideration in my mind, at least, to be able to service the need from a business point of view. So again, I keep coming back to business needs. It's not what we are trying to do as IT, what business needs and how quickly you can marry it all together. and obviously security and compliance. I'll also touch upon it a little bit. When we talk about migration, there was also an interesting point which Ishan Technologies brought about exit, but I'll limit to the migration of what is happening today. I think India people thought that it will take time to do the cloud adoption, and look at it, what is it now? Somebody talking about 98%, somebody talking about 91%. In my mind, it is phenomenal, right? We had not thought about that it will be so fast. In my mind, though, I am a proponent of using things which meets the business needs quickly, and I think cloud data center definitely does that. So I think it's re-emphasizing that what decisions we take, I think people in general, from an India perspective, are taking. And I think we are all taking in the right direction. So I think I just want to talk about, with one example, especially when you are migrating, let's say, the ERP from, let's say, the need is there. Now that need can come in from your requirements of how your business structure is, how your company is doing. Is it CapEx healthy? Does it want to do OpEx spend for, let's say, this financial year? All those considerations you have to bake in your migration strategy. So based on that, you can arrive on how your hybrid environment will look like. For example, just with one ERP, I think, as you can know, go with an open mind, whether you really want to reinvest with, let's say, SAP being S4HANA, and they're talking about RISE, but you know that it may happen over a 3-year time span. What do you do to best leverage the investment which you want to make today, either from a CapEx point of view or from an OpEx point of view? You may want to have hybrid for other applications where your prod is running on the cloud, but your DR is running on a setup which you have reasonably invested in. It all depends on what you have done. I'm just playing out different scenarios, but keep that in mind. There is always a best fit scenario for your case, as long as you can keep those things in mind, that it is providing the best ROI, and you are hitching onto the innovation which is happening on the cloud, both from a deployment perspective, obviously from a compute and performance perspective. And I have seen it in cases where you specifically in the case of SAP, that you are running let's say a 1 TB or 1.5 TB. You are scaling up to the maximum from a RAM perspective, let's say 1.7 or 1.2. You are running reasonably within the framework of how that cloud can handle, right? Whereas when you are hosted internally, you are struggling. You're literally struggling as to how to, add to the capacity with the growing business, at the same time being cost effective. So think about those scenarios, and that's where that aspect of, hybrid may work as a first step. From a renewal point of view, once you are there on the cloud, to manage cost, in my mind, keep that migration strategy of lift and shift being there from one cloud to another. And therefore, have your application as much as possible containerized, so you can move from one playground to another playground. Because either to manage the cost or to jump over to a better, more technology innovated cloud data center. With all this said, I think there is always a risk consideration from a public cloud perspective. As it holds here, I think you need to really make sure who is accessing it, how they are accessing it, what privileges do they have. There are no privilege escalations happening. I think that is very, very key. And I think, I don't know whether I talk about it, but I think more from a compliance point of view, as you now with this DPDP Act being there, though it is more about consent, but you have to build all those factors in as to how you will comply to the geography you are in, or your employees are in, or your customers are in, whose data you are hosting in your cloud data centers. I already touched about from a vendor lock-in perspective that I think keep, especially during renewal, keep that in mind that there is always an aspect of trying new things and being as to how when you did from in-house to cloud, from cloud to cloud, there are different options. Obviously, it takes a lot of diligence and POC, and obviously one-time migration of cost, especially when the data size is big, from the transfer data cost. But these are all, your part of the total ROI which you want to, define. I talked about identity. I think threat detection on cloud. When you are a cloud data center, threat detection, I think, is key. The earliest you can get hold of your threat detection, because look at it, the playground it can have, it can scale, outscale completely. Use your, the entire budget cost which you had planned in just over a weekend, right? And these are not human beings no longer doing it, right? There are bots running it, looking for a possibility. So in all cases, whether it's a compute run, data loss, detection is, in my mind, key, because that whole huge compute which can just scale out, blow up, including storage, is there for the available on the on a platter if we are not detecting it early enough. So detect as close to the incident and take control of the situation at the earliest. So you should have playbooks, you should have communication strategy as to what you will do, rather than looking for approvals, what actions a person or a panel of people can quickly take and move to do damage control. And now talking about disaster recovery, I think obviously for certain applications, especially when you're talking about, let's say from an R&D point of view, let's say some things will be natively cloud. For example, if you want to do some R&D on, let's say, fiber optic sensing project, it makes sense that because you don't know how much it will scale up from a need perspective, from the R&D functions perspective, best to be in the cloud. So how do you take care of disaster recovery in those cases which are crucial projects? And I think so keep that in mind. It could be multi-cloud, it could be hybrid, as I mentioned earlier. Some people talked about cost. In my mind, I think if we keep playing on these, especially the use reserved instance and resizing your platform, if you have a data lake, for example, on the cloud, make sure there is a governance and regular resizing, how long you want to keep your data, right? And it is both from a compliance perspective as well as from a, not keeping data beyond a point. I think these are few areas which you can play and take advantage of what is happening on the cloud as well as manage your cost. Obviously, at the end of the day, budget plays a big criteria. With the time I have, I thought I'll share these perspectives. I would have loved to talk about more items, but any questions, happy to answer. Otherwise, thank you for being such a nice crowd listening to my talk. Yes, please.
Good afternoon. Thank you for the session. It was very nice.
Thank you.
My question is related to cloud to on-premise back, in the sense of bringing back from cloud to on-premise model. A startup, they start an organization when the resources are very less, they may go for a cloud. Once the organization get matured, when the data become big, when they want to bring it back to on-premise, so I heard like, in the sense like the downtime required is very huge, that particular point of time. So what are the latest technologies available to reduce or cut down the downtime to bring back the data to on-premise?
I think good question. I have not, frankly, I have not handled that scenario. I'm all taking it outward. But I think this gentlemen may be able to answer more questions around how to bring it back. For me, I'm playing with one cloud over another cloud to be able to manage that. So, yeah.
So I am doing that a pilot where I mean mainly I think I'm in line with your proposition of the cloud is the best way to do it. But as an organization, I'm looking at the cost optimization by force rather than by choice, right? In the sense we have to reduce the cost. But the one thing that we are doing is that I know I'm keeping my critical applications still on the cloud. Right, and I'm divided the applications which are non-critical and doesn't have to be have to go through the vertical and horizontal scaling that often. Right, I know their capacity, capability requirements that I know, and so those are the things. And also I'm looking at the data. Right, so a lot of data as a staffing organization, we have to keep the data for years together, and the data more than active data, inactive data is a lot of data is there, and burning a lot of money on storing the data on the cloud. So I'm looking at those options. What are the best options that I can still save some cost and also do not introduce overall risk. And also I need to make sure that I choose the security tools and infrastructure that can be applicable on the cloud as well as on the data centers partners that I'm going with. So as a result of that, and it is going to be gradual because I'm risk averse in that sense, because after a lot of effort I have made everything work on the cloud, and the cost is the only driver, and my CFO is putting pressure than any technology drivers are at the moment, right? So those are the things I'm looking at, and how am I going to actually migrate this? Okay, like for example, IT asset management system, can I move it, right? I don't want to move my my CRM right away or something like that. Right? So then choosing those things effectively and then start migrating it. But I think I'm going to keep my business critical applications on the cloud. I can scale them up, down, shut down, all those things. Only one point is that I have to be disciplined, especially the one of the resizing of the resources, monitor and all those things. My team is, if it doesn't do effectively, I still keep bringing up the cost. So there is something discipline I need to have, so that you keep looking at, it's easy to
look at the reserved instance part. I think that has helped. Look at another option. I'm still talking about from move to an AMD set of servers if you are on Azure. These levers also play a role in managing your cost. And I think, as you rightly said, critical, non-critical applications. Also look for, if it is all about storage, look for cold storage on cloud, which is offline and at a very reasonable price, rather than keeping it here with all the security and then all the concerns around it. I think there are many options, but I think good that, thank you very much for sharing your perspective. So with that, thank you very much for listening to me. Thank you.